Okay, welcome back to the channel. And this video, we're gonna go over the differences between Node versus Node2D. I'm planning to make this a series in which I cover all the different types of nodes in Godot and show the differences and what functionality they have. If there's any specific function you want me to go over that you guys aren't sure of, leave it in the comments so I can look it over and see what I can do with the video for that. And with that out of the way, let's get started. So the node uh, scene is basically the basic building block used in Godot to build scenes. Every single node inside of Godot uses the node scene. So if you look at the implementation of the methods here, you can see that we have methods here like exit tree, ready process, physics process, which are always, if you create a default script and leave the defaults in, these methods are automatically created. And then you can see the other methods here like finding nodes, parents, all of that is controlled by this single node. All these other stuff, which if you guys can go in and read it all. And yeah, that's basically, at least for this, there's just a lot of other constants here you can control, mess around with. It's a lot of just going in, mess around, playing with it, see what you can get out of it. And next, let's go to the Node2D section, which anytime you're making a 2D game, every single object that's, whether it's sprite, polygon, position 2D, all of them inherit from the Node2D. And this one gives you access to be able to change the position, the rotation, scale, and the z-index for whether or not you want to set it as a higher priority to render first versus a certain object that doesn't take as much priority. And if we go to the methods, you can see these methods are all aimed at trying to scale the object, move the object to, look at an object, translate an object, and all we have, the rest are just getters and setters to make that happen. Now let's go into Godot and we'll see the difference in performance we can get using Node versus Node2D. I would say before we get into this, you would want to use Node probably as your main script for controlling the game. And also I usually use nodes to separate objects. So I'll give an example. So we would create a node in our scene and I would call it something like, if we had items, I would call this items. And under there, we would add, let's just say the sprite is an item and it's like key or something. We could then duplicate this and we would have a group of keys all located under this items node, in which you can just call and check who the parent is in order to figure out what function to call for these keys. So let's get that out of the way now. So that's what I would use Node for. Node2D, I really only used it back when I first learned to use Godot to do the same functionality as Node. I would say if you wanted to, you could maybe use Node2D as, here's an example. If we take two sprites and let's give these some textures with the default icon. Both of them have a texture. I'm going to drag. Let's just offset this by like 10, just so we can. Let's go like 100. And if we take node, and let me see, I'm going to change it to move mode. Oh. Why is it not letting me? Okay, you know what? Let's just control this from the editor. So if I change this to 25, you can see they both move. So maybe you would use Node2D if you had you wanted to instance a group of objects and you wanted to position them on a specific area of the screen. So for an example, let's move this another, like move it to 200. Let's say our player is here and we want to make sure we spawn a group of enemies 200 units away. Then we could just have the Node2D as the group to control them. We could even just move it further, but that would be maybe one case use. I would say maybe Node2D might be a better option, since you can't really move nodes. So those are the base cases, I guess, for both of them. And now let's look at the performance of when we create a lot of these objects and they're all within the scene. If we have about 4,000 and we run this, also make sure, let me first pause, I guess stop this. If you want to have similar results, turn VSync off and also set FPS and go to settings here and turn print FPS on if you want to get the same output here. So now you would click to play the scene. This is the node 1. As you can see, we get an over 2500 FPS. And if we do the same for here, if we run this, as you can see, we have a dip all the way down to 1500. So Node2D, because of having extra Node2D section, it also has a node section and a canvas item section. It's hitting CPU a lot harder. We're only using a single thread, I believe, so I have just the default settings set, so we could improve it by changing some settings, but that's not the point of this video. So let's go now and show off how the performance gets once we set it to 100,000 for both. We run node again, and this time we're going to go to the debugger to show some extra results, and we're going to go to monitors. And as you can see here, we're getting around 2700 FPS of about close to 2 milliseconds. And we're using about 100 megs of static memory. And if we cancel that, and we're going to run another one now, we're barely getting enough to get 100 frames, which is not great. If we wanted to expand this, game would probably, let's see, can we, yeah, the frame rate dips more. Let's go back, it goes back to normal after, but if we had a lot of objects and a full screen, this would really tank the performance of the game. Oh wait, and I forgot, because I did that, let's go and show also the monitor section. As we can see, we're using about 11 milliseconds of process time for this. That's not great. And if we look at the static memory, we're using 167 megs. So that's a whole 67 extra megs being used. It's not much if you consider you're making 100,000 nodes, but as you can see, that would make your baseline of how much RAM you need in order to run this game higher than it needs to be if you're using Node2Ds when you could be using nodes instead. This last one, with the current settings, I believe it's gonna give us an output here. Okay, it ran fine, but as you can see, we're barely getting 60 frames. That's like basically, I think that's around the max you can get before it and starts dipping under 60. And for a modern game, if you're making one right now, that anything under 60 frames a second was kind of not great. So as you can see, we can only push about 174,000 instances of Node2Ds. And We can push here 1,000,000. I'm not going to run that because we can run 1,000,000, but the problem is we have to wait about, I believe it's about 20 seconds in order for the game to launch. It's still running at, I think, like 2000 plus FPS though. Is you can see having a lot of nodes that really doesn't affect the performance of your game. But if you have a lot of Node2Ds for no reason, it's going to tank your performance. And I think that's it. In the comments, if you guys want, let me know which node you want me to cover next. I was planning to probably cover the rest of the 2D nodes, so I'm going to probably start off going in order. So I started with Node and Node2D. I'm going to probably go with animated sprite and sprite next. And yeah, because yeah, those are in order. I'm probably going to save control for last because all of this is more meant for, I'd say mostly it's meant for UI of the game. But let me know if you guys would rather have me cover the control section instead. And I guess that's going to be it. And I guess I'll see you guys in the next video.